Najee Harris is and should be the number one running back on this team. So today we're going to be breaking down the fact that after the preseason game against the Bills, where Warren had that massive run for a touchdown, there's been shade on Najee saying whether or not he should be the number one running back. And the answer is absolutely yes. And yes, I'm agreeing with candidate here because it's also kind of obvious. Yes, Warren has big play explosiveness that Najee probably never will be able to hit that ceiling of. And that is the number one argument for Warren. But what Warren cannot do, which is much more important to this Steelers roster, Warren cannot carry the load game in and game out, 20 plus carries a game. And this is strictly because the size of Warren given the NFL. One of the best parts about Jaylen Warren is that he is a little man with no fear. And when you watch his highlights, he actively runs through people. And he has gotten himself a reputation as being, even though he's little, don't come and mess with me. And we saw that in that big run where Poyer literally has a chance, takes a readjustment angle, and then Warren is so fast and it's over. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. The point is that works on secondary. That does not work on middle linebackers. And one thing that Najee has shown repeatedly that Warren has not is Najee does not get tied up in the backfield. One of the worst things that we had with the two featured backs before Najee, being Connor and Bell, would be getting tackled for a loss. Granted, different era of an offensive line, but still a major problem. So as we're looking at what Najee does, what Najee gives to the Steelers, I understand everyone's general complaint. Under 4 yards per carry, under 4 yards per carry. You can't be doing that in this offense that needs to get at least 4 to 5 yards on first down. And that was a much, much bigger problem before this year began. Now that Kenny is throwing the ball consistently across the sticks, especially on third downs, the need to get all the easy yardage to get to the 3rd and 1 because Ben can't throw the ball further than that is becoming less relevant. And the other part of this is as the receivers are stepping up and getting better and going downfield more, the gaps of the likelihood of having the 8th man in the box are diminishing. Remember, last year the Steelers ran the ball into the 8-man front more than anyone else in the NFL. We were the second best at it, but we kept doing it over and over again. And Najee Harris, for all the great things he is not a speedster. He is the closest thing to a pure balanced back in the NFL because he does bring a power component to his game that many backs do not. In some ways, he's a thinner version of Bettis, given that he can handle the load. And we never complained about Bettis being under 4 yards a carry. Why? Because when the game came to ending it, it was over. But Steelers Nation, this is the problem that we've been living in for the last half decade. We haven't had a lead in the 4th quarter. When we win, it's basically always a comeback. That was always the way. And it's not the goal. It's not ideal. So in the ideal space here, what we're going to be doing is getting the leads early and then Najee running out the clock late. Jaylen Warren is not capable of that second component. Sure, he might be part of the get the lead early by hitting a big run here and there, which he is capable of, and we see that in the highlights there. But at the end of the day, Najee is the only player on this roster who is capable of getting the ball for an entire 4th quarter and us milking out the clock like the old school Bettis Steelers. That is what this team is in desperate need of more than anything else. Kenny has made the jump. We can be a pass-first offense now. We don't need to get the explosiveness every single play like a team like the Indianapolis Colts does. What we need is to get the clock killed. And that's what Najee Harris is. And I do believe by the end of the year, he's going to be seen as one of the best in the NFL at doing that because the Steelers are going to give him an ample enough opportunities by having leads in the 4th quarter. Najee Harris is not only the most talented running back on this team, he's the most talented running back this team has had since Bettis. and that it counts Connor, that counts Bell. That is a fact. Najee Harris is immensely talented, and that is the way it is. He needs to get the ball more, and he needs to stop having this criticism at him. Because when we look at this, the post-game interview, when you listen to the tweet of it and watch it live, it's like, how is he supposed to answer a question about his competition? Obviously it was good, but the way the question was framed basically put him in a spot where that was the only answer he could give. So we have to look at this in context of how people are having conversations and asking him questions before just jumping down his throat. The other thing is Najee's personality, on that note, is not he's a very smart person. He's not someone who's just going to ramble and go off and give you meaningless football answers. He's actually a thoughtful person. So when you see him give answers, in part it's because he doesn't want to go there, and you're allowed to not want to go things in questions. Cowher was very good at that, and Tomlin does it all the time, and we love it for his Tomlinisms. So just keep that into perspective here, Steeler Nation. Bottom line, Warren's going to give you some splash, but Najee needs to be the play-in, play-out guy, and he is the most talented running back the Steelers have had since Jerome Bettis, and the only one who will have an option of one day getting another gold jacket. If you haven't already, click subscribe, and as always, here we go, Steelers, here we go.